Hello, Happy New Year. It has been a pretty loaded 2 weeks. Uh, Holiday season. Really, really, really got me this year. Really, really put me out. But it's 2024 and we got some work to do. We got some goals to strive for this year. hmm One of those goals is streaming more consistently because I'd like to, if I may, uh, hit our excuse me, hit our goals for to reach affiliate, or hit our goals for to reach affiliate. I'd like to achieve eligibility for affiliate status before WeebCon in March. Ideally. Ideally, it would be before WeebCon. Because it'd be nice to go down to WeebCon and say, hey, I'm a Twitch affiliate and a VTuber. Um, but yeah, that's the idea. What we gotta do is we gotta stream some more. We gotta stream more often, more consistently. And I want to make Mythos Mondays consistent. I know I started them the week before Christmas, which was probably a bad idea, but hey, whatever. We live and we learn. Um, that said, as it is now 2024, and we are now in the year of the dragon, I have an announcement. I am no longer a gray boy. I can transform. Yeah, I know. Okay. Hello. It is we have, courtesy of Vienna the VTuber and Diariku, a fully rigged star fart model. And look at his fucking face. I love this little guy. The 53 is not supposed to be there, but you know what? I might just leave it because that, it doesn't. I don't really care. That's Vienna's thing. I recolored him myself, so I'm just an orb. I'm just a little guy. Uh, but I've got a lot more expressions now. This model's a lot more expressive than the previous NPC model, for which I'm very grateful. Oh, actually, the previous NPC model made by Melon Bread, no longer relevant. There you go. Always appreciate a free model. Very the amount of work that it takes. Looking at this model compared to the NPC model, the amount of work that it takes to make different shit is like insane. Go away, get out of here. So I always appreciate a free model, no matter what it looks like. Like it's always cool. It's always like very, very generous whenever anybody, artists and riggers, get together and make a free model, especially something like this, because I have toggles. Watch me transform again. I am so round. I'm I'm just a little guy. Anyway, yeah. I got a lot of cool little animations that I like on this guy, and we've got like happy eyes and whatever this is, and some blushies that go really well with it. I like a lot of things about it. We got angry eyes. Something else I like is when I frown with my eyebrows. the mouth shape like changes. A new model, courtesy of Vienna and Dairiku. Let's get the and I got those too. For when we really be blushing. When you see a pretty girl. When you roll your waifu in Genshin. I can remove the tail, which is hard to see because of the fireworks going on here, but I can do that. It's also a little tough on this background, but you know, it's distinct enough. I like it. What else? There was something. There were a couple more. Yeah, there you go. Masked Bandit. And we've got the Disparage. I think that's about all of the important ones. The important toggles that we had here. You can also make the 53 go away. Like so. Oh, I don't have a toggle set up to bring it back. That's why. Whatever. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Should all the acquaintance be for gore? Anyway. Yeah, so this is the new gig. I'm a small round boy. We may go back to using the NPC model every once in a while, but I wanna play with this guy a little bit specifically because of all the expressions and everything. I like what we got going on here. I wanna try and play with the toggles because it's cool. The NPC one had a single toggle, which was I never really got much use out of it, if I'm being completely honest. But yeah, I'm excited to play around with this model. Excuse me. Oh man. Oh, I'm dead. Eventually I'll invest in like an iPhone or something that's got really good facial capture. Also contacts, so my glasses stop fucking with the facial capture as well. That'll probably help. Yeah, big thanks again to Vienna and Dairiku for working on this. It's very cool, very cool to have access to a model that's this complex. And having seen models that are very complex, like Vienna's and Dairiku's themselves, even this low level of complexity is impressive to me, and like the fact that they took time out of their busy daily lives to make this for free for anybody with like instructions on how to like change the colors and change the toggles and shit. That's so awesome. So yeah, big shout outs to them. It's really cool being a part of the VTuber community. It's a lot of everybody helps everybody out. It's really awesome. It's wonderful. But that's enough sappy shit. Fuck off, Windows. What the? Who asked? Anyway, we are gonna get back to Mythos Monday with our hello. With our good old visual novel, Witch on the Holy Night. Let me swap back over to this scene. Oh, hold on. I gotta kind of. I'm stuck in a box. I gotta uncrop this shit. I gotta decrease the crop. I'm slowly descending. Is that okay? That's okay. I'm in a box here, dude. This is what's going on? Nope, we want to decrease that. I'm scooching. I'm schmooving. I'm slipping and sliding. I gotta fucking. Oh, this comp. Oh, we're doing it live, ladies and gentlemen. This is a little complicated. Hold on. If I move myself a little bit in VTube Studio, that would probably help. If I come down here a little bit. Oh, this is a pain. But like, if I remove all the cropping, yeah, that doesn't really help very much. And you got what's her name, the mascot, in the corner. That's okay. No, stop. Go. Stay away from me. Get away from me. Leave me alone. I don't know if I can, like, permanently remove her. I don't think I can. I don't know how. I'm not good at this, in case you haven't noticed. Alright, let me... excuse me. We're having a rough day today. I went for a run earlier. Get some exercise. You know, New Year's type stuff. And kind of fucked me up a little bit. I had a cup of coffee, some hot beverage. I got my water here, but it's not really doing a whole lot for me here. What if I just became smaller? What if I was just a little guy? That seems acceptable. There we go. All right. Now, let's do this again. Hold on. Hello? Are we Oh, there we go. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Witch on the Holy Night. We'll be continuing from you should be beginning chapter 3. Nights. Let me tell you how the events of yesterday transpired. Oh. On moonless nights, you must never look back. Was it a lesson, or was it a warning? It was so very long ago. At the time, I could not have imagined what my very being would become. One night, it came without warning. I was filled with an anxiety so heightened that it made me want to burst into tears. So I fled to my grandfather's workshop. Unlike the grandfather I knew, he smiled and kindly placed his hand upon my head. Yes, the Red Death follows your every step. Rather than consoling me, he sent me home with only those haunting words. That night, I was certain that I sensed a shadow lurking behind me. Something or someone was watching me from afar. Then, little by little, year by year, it drew closer. Eventually, the presence that once felt like a spot on the horizon grew so close that I could feel its breath down the base of my neck. Of course, it was all in my mind. When I turned around, nobody was there. But that night marked the beginning. In hindsight, I later understood that indescribable anxiety I felt was the dread of certain death. Oh my god. I can't use my toggles because the control button fast forwards. Anyway, let's pretend that it's all okay. How much time has passed since that night? It lingered deep in the recesses of my mind where childhood memories are kept. A faded, storybook-esque memory. On dark nights I still hear the faint echo of my grandfather's words. But no matter how strong the wind may howl or how entrancing the song of the girl next to me, I could never bury his ominous words completely. It's here, the girl beside me said. Alice's inflectionless voice spoke volumes of her role as the bystander. That night, there was only me and her. It was the night I would mark as the birth of who I am today. For what should have been quite the memorable night, it sure wasn't a promising start. Dense clouds blocked the starlight above me like a black umbrella. Strong wind tore through the sky, carrying the heavy clouds with it. The hands on the clock in the middle of the park pointed skyward, as if reaching for the moon. Unfortunately for them, tonight there was no moon to point at. The winter air grew fiercer as the night wore on. Inhaling felt as though it would freeze me from the inside. The air chilled me to the bone, threatening to pass up my spine directly to my brain. To prevent my mind from being paralyzed, and to prevent my fingertips from becoming stone, I sparked a fire, using my internal rhythm and emotion. I'm transferring tactile feedback to you. Good luck. Stand over there, and the engraved will-o'-the-wisps will ignite. I responded to Alice with a nod. And then, for just a moment, I saw the ground. My legs quivered ever so faintly. I told myself they were shaking from the cold, but I wasn't so sure. In reality, they may not have been numbed by the cold, but by fear. I breathe a sigh of relief. My humanity must still be intact if my emotions are still present. Before I could sink into a pool of my own sentimentality, the sensations from the bounded field flowed from Alice into me. A transparent wall covered the entire park. An unrecognizable carpet rooted deep under the earth. Alice Kuonji's chants of the Mother Goose fairy tales permeated the night. Sensations became one with my body. I felt goosebumps on my quivering right arm. Someone had trespassed. The goosebumps crept up my right arm like ants, and slowly but surely made inroads for my heart. Holding back the desire to drive them out, I waited for them to reach a certain, definitive position. A moonless night. The park's quaint street lights were not enough to lift the darkness. The ants came to a stop. Far, far from my right arm, they had reached my very heart. Even without the aid of my sense of sight, I could see the intruder lurking in the darkness. To starboard, in the bushes about 30 steps back on all fours, it was beckoning with its right hand. There! The enemy's movement and my perception of it were in lockstep. I spun around. The enemy's arm stretched out like a spear. This lethal weapon aimed at the back of my head brushed my hair at breakneck speed. With the omniscient awareness granted by Alice's ward, I managed to avoid it by the skin of my teeth. My hair fanned through the air from the violence of the attack. The strike grazed my cheek, and I felt a small, sharp pain. It felt like the kiss of death. I switched the flow of my body's blood to a different cycle. The blood running through my veins at a few feet per second transmuted into an imaginary element. My body became a single circuit, and my heart transformed into a completely different engine. Within me stirred an unknowable motion of immeasurable heat. Something mystic yet untapped by humankind that made me who I am. It was the fire of life behind all miracles and fables. What we mages called magical energy. Connecting. I turned around, set the enemy in my sights, and held up one hand. My arm was the agent of my will. My lack of experience meant my magecraft would only be possible with the use of vocalizations and gestures. Magical formulae were engraved all over the park. All I had to do was ignite them. I needed to direct the flow of magical energy within my body into each formula. Typically, a mage acts as a conduit. Whether wired or wireless, the mage simply pours a magical energy into the formula. Releasing this energy in the form of a projectile, stream, or any number of other methods would usually suffice. But in my case, it was the feeling of my limbs whipping out. Burn! I fought speed with speed. The enemy's arm, extended 10 feet forward, became engulfed in flames. It was nighttime at the park. The scene reminiscent of a campfire, but one in which the center of the flames contained a humanoid figure, wriggling like a shadowy puppet. The flames subsided just as unnaturally as it had ignited. No crackling, no burning smell. You can have the bounded field back. I'll check the remains. After telling this to Alice, I headed toward the motionless figure. I killed it. I killed it. I killed it. Regardless of who my opponent was, I just took someone's life. My throat parched. I swallowed the truth that, without this sense of reality, I would have been helpless. So hard and bitter, impossible to swallow. But I tried to, anyway. I was unnervingly calm. My heart pounded, and my breath felt heavy. But my mind was nonetheless calm. By the time I realized it, the charred remains were already in front of me. Bracing for a counterattack, I carefully examined the corpse. Everything seemed fine. This body, lying slumped to the ground, was nothing but ash. But something wasn't right. To begin with, its remains didn't smell organic. Not willing to believe my hunch, I took a closer look at the corpse's face. All that greeted me was the featureless white face of a mannequin. Damn it, they got us again! Screaming, I kicked the mannequin. The corpse crumbled to ash and disappeared with the wind. No, this was no corpse. This was just a puppet, and for all our efforts to lure the master out, we had once again been tricked by a familiar. My debut, my first test out in the open, would be postponed for another day. Will I ever pass this test? What? At that moment, I suddenly noticed something familiar in the corner of my eye. Something seemed strange about the slide on the other end of the park. It appeared as though its shadow were larger than it should be. Was I still drunk on the high of battle? It took me a second to realize what it was. Who's there? Calling out was a mistake. Startled by my voice, the figure, wearing a familiar high school uniform, took a step back, and then it broke into a sprint. Like someone running for their life. Or should I say, he was doing exactly that. After him, we've been spotted! In a rush, I shouted to my partner, but she hadn't even noticed the third party's presence in the first place. Though it wasn't as if I could move by myself. Embarrassingly, the fight had taken more out of me than I'd have liked. No, he'll get away! We need to catch and eliminate him. There was no time for niceties. For us, being seen here was a matter of life and death. Wait, get back here, you! Shaking off the numbness in my legs, I made for the park's exit. I had to admire his escape. The witness, party to the entire night's proceedings, had disappeared into the darkness of the residential district without a trace. Why the hell didn't I sense him in the field? Complaining to myself wouldn't bring back the figure in uniform. Bitter at my own incompetence, I gave up the chase. Though temporary, the park had become Alice's woods. For anyone within a few feet of the park, other parkgoers' identifiable features and voices became murky, like the stuff of fairy tales. Tonight's proceedings may have had a witness, but if our identities were still hidden, then this was still a chance. That looked like a male from behind. I returned to the park. That uniform was, without a doubt, from my high school. That was clue enough. If he was a schoolmate of mine, I had plenty of methods to flush him out. It's one thing after another. Amidst my grumbling, I set my priorities straight. Before some strange rumors spread, I needed to seal the witness's mouth shut. That was the highest priority, quickly and without mercy. Looking up, I saw Alice's previously distant figure. Though she was in as much trouble as I was with her existence as a mage also exposed, she had but one thing to say. This means trouble. Her statue-like figure, staring into the darkness, seemed more expressionless than calm. I was pissed off. Her inscrutable voice resembled the moonless night so much it made me angry. Oh, that was a very short episode. I was expecting more. Let's take this opportunity to save really quick. I don't have a B, but I'm not using a controller. Chapter 4. Blues in Her Name. There really isn't any other way of saying this. I am a magician. Kind of like those witches in fairy tales who live alone in the woods and perform miracles with the wave of a finger. While the popular depiction of it differs from reality, it's closer to the truth than you know. Though just so we're clear, no, I don't fly through the sky on a broom. I cannot transform into animals or speak with small birds. Modern mages are nothing so fanciful. Our existence sounds unbelievable, but we're quite grounded. Though it may seem like we can do anything, we're actually majorly constrained. And while I still have a lot to learn about it, this is my real job. Sounds a lot more romantic than being a high school student, right? Naturally, this is a secret I don't just share with anyone. A mage must do everything in their power to conceal their work. That is the first and most important of the Association's 10 laws. Not that I'm tempted to let the cat out of the bag in the least. My secret identity as an honor student is intact, and absolutely no good would come of me revealing my true nature. If anything, it would only lead to more headaches. That's why I do everything in my power to keep it a secret. Of course, if I'd accomplished anything as a magician by now, then maybe I'd see it differently. I've fantasized about revealing my secret life's work to a single, special person when I finally make something of myself. Yeah, it'd be pretty stellar to just confess one day. By the way, I'm a magician. That idea alone is enough to keep me from spoiling the big reveal, regardless of the association's rules. My grandfather patted me on the head when I shared these thoughts with him. I don't know if that was praise or what, but I remember that his touch was gentle. I first learned that I would be succeeding my grandfather on the day I graduated middle school. When I returned home, there he was. Your elder sister left on a journey. From this day forth, you are the heir to the Aozaki. He said it in such a matter-of-fact way. I knew that the Aozaki family passed down this old tradition of magecraft, but to be honest, I never imagined I would be the one to wield it. Magecraft is supposed to be passed down to a single child. It was my sister's role to take the mantle, and I had no interest in dedicating myself to so many rules and routines. I planned to live a normal life. I had hopes and dreams for the future. I felt bad for my sister, but I was determined to live my life my way. And while I managed to do just that for a time, I was blindsided by a vicious counterpunch. Since then, I've been thrust headlong into a world I had only observed from afar. It was a hell of a way to start high school. But I suppose it wasn't all that bad, all things considered. A lot has happened since then. I was so dazed by this newfound life that a year of school motored right by. I was a second year before I knew it. Thankfully, nothing drastic has happened. The 6 months my roommate and I totally tried to kill each other notwithstanding. As it happens, I've got a natural talent at this magic stuff, so I've yet to have any hang-ups there either. I'm only human, so I've had my fair share of headaches for sure, but never once did I worry about my future. I thought my life would be smooth sailing all the way. If only everything had gone to plan last night. Well, Alice Kuonji asked Aoko Aozaki the second she entered the house. Her dark eyes succeeded where her voice failed to communicate the gravity of the situation. Aoko took off her unflattering coat, hung it on the hanger, and sat down on the sofa. Alice sat across from her, with a table separating them. Any progress with those things? Not at all. I've only got 7 left that are any good for reconnaissance. I've been using them up fast, and we haven't had time to make more. Alice's gaze drifted from Aoko to the box on the table. Were none of them keeping watch that night? They've never let you down when it comes to this sort of thing, have they? During the day, no, but there is quite the risk when flying them at night. Meaning they were of the least use when needed the most. Aoko sighed. Well, how are you faring? You seemed pretty confident this morning. Yeah, I guess everything's good on my end. I'm pretty sure I'll know by tomorrow. I told Tobinaru to look into all of the students' addresses and schedules. Not many people wander the park that time of night, so it should be easy enough to figure out who it was. How can you be so sure? Because I didn't just join the student council to keep up appearances. I've been using my position to keep tabs on everyone. I have info on everything from part-time jobs to friends' addresses to what they're up to in their spare time. It's a list I was hoping to keep secret, but we can't afford to do that now, can we? That's why I keep the vice president around. It's the kind of thing he does best. Incidentally, the creation of this secret file started the moment Aoko became student council president. The mere rumor of its existence was enough to strike fear into the entire student body. As thorough as always, I see. Alice was only mildly surprised. It had been almost 2 years since they first started living together. She knew as well as anyone that when Aoko put her mind to something, she saw it through to the end. Well, I never imagined I'd have to use it like this, but it's better to be safe than sorry. But what happened last night was far beyond a mere exception to the rule. This predicament should not have even been possible. More importantly, have you figured out what went wrong? And don't tell me it had anything to do with your link to the bounded field. Aoko glared at her. The ward was Alice's responsibility. If it was to blame for last night's trouble, Alice had to own up to her fair share. Alice and Aoko may have been roommates and partners, but it was a relationship of convenience. While lineage had brought them together, they were more like enemies than allies. Ultimately, they were not a match. Where there was a blunder, it was punished. Where there was an opening, it would be attacked. If there was even an opportunity, the two of them would kill each other in the event of such a moment. Alice locked eyes with Aoko. Aoko's fierce gaze could make a grown man cower in fear, but Alice did not bat an eyelash. Assuming the bounded field was the problem, wouldn't this have happened countless times before? I suppose you're right, Aoko agreed as the question reaffirmed her trust in Alice. So you're saying there was nothing wrong with it? I honestly can't say for sure. Alice answered as flatly as ever. A bounded field is like a sanctuary sealed away from the real world. Steps are taken whereby a certain area is cut off from the outside world. There are various kinds of bounded fields. There are physical ones that close off an area behind a wall, and less tangible ones that use mirrors, mist, or trees to conceal that which occurs within. However, when closing off an area to the outside world, you cannot avoid communicating the abnormality's existence. In other words, the area may be closed off. I beg your pardon. In other words, the area may be closed off to the outside world, but it is impossible to hide the fact that it is closed off. In time, someone will take interest in a sealed-off area, even if they cannot see what is going on inside. Some might say this is putting the cart before the horse. The ideal field would be one that was both undetectable and impervious to interference from the outside. That was exactly the kind Alice had generated in the park the night before. Even if someone has a reason to be in a place, they shouldn't enter if you've made them forget their reason for being there. It takes an immense amount of time and energy to create a field that produces a temporary illusion around a location you wish to conceal, but they prove extremely effective for at least an hour or so, right? And to top it all, it was a top class made from your mirrors, and it's not like they shattered while we were using it. The only other presence I felt inside was that of the puppet. If that isn't a perfectly constructed bounded field, then what is? I have no idea. The trees were prepared perfectly. I cultivated the trees and plants over several days, and it's always proved to be a reliable field. But maybe, just maybe, there was something I didn't account for. Though Alice's words conceded the possibility, her eyes expressed her confidence that she had overlooked nothing. Well, crap. In that case, we'd better hope that the witness was a puppeteer, which would make sense. The mage would probably be able to penetrate it. Something else bothers me, though. How did he avoid detection? The thought of being targeted by this individual was pretty terrifying. If they were able to penetrate Alice's field, it could only mean that their skill in magecraft was superior to Alice's. Alice, in her current state, would be completely helpless against such a foe. I've already determined that it was not a mage. This was most certainly an outsider. The starlings are one thing, but not even Robin was able to follow him. There were no traces of magical energy, so that rules out a magical pawn. Aoko was quickly running out of straws to grasp at. And that meant she was out of questions to ask. All she could do was call it bad luck and leave it at that. First you get found out that you're a mage, then you let the witness get away. Why couldn't I just have normal high schooler problems? The sofa groaned as she leaned back. Her gaze went up to the brown ceiling with a sigh. It wasn't much of a view. She was becoming increasingly depressed. Aoko, make up your mind. Her roommate's voice seemed indifferent, but Aoko just kept staring up at the wooden ceiling. If you're not up to the task, I can take care of it myself. The cool-mannered girl's statement carried an equally icy implication. Aoko took the words in slowly, with as much sincerity as she could muster. It was like trying to swallow molten lead. She's right, and I've already made up my mind. The thought sounded hollow even as it popped into her head. This was clearly different from last time. While the aim was indeed the same, the circumstances surrounding her target were clearly different. She may have been determined before, but that was as a mage. If enemies emerged, she would kill them. If she was challenged, she would step up to the fight. It was a fight between two mages, and her opponent was in the wrong. Even if this could only end in death for one of them, it was an outcome both parties could accept. Kill or be killed. Morality had no weight on this scale. But this time was different. Her opponent was neither enemy nor mage. Even if she was prepared to kill them, this person was likely not ready to die. That's why morality did factor into it now. Was she truly up to the task of murdering an innocent person? Could she swallow the fact that this was a common occurrence for a mage? She snorted sardonically. Being a mage did not mean that Aoko was some kind of monk who could cut ties with the real world on a whim. If there was one thing Aoko hated, it was doing things without conviction or an understanding of exactly why she was doing them. When she acted, she preferred to act decisively. I guess I don't have any other choice, as she said as she got up from the sofa, having had her fill of the ceiling for one day. Aoko had returned to the alcove always, and Alice was done probing her. Take this. As if to reward her, Alice produced a small bottle. It fit neatly in the palm of her hand. The bottle looked completely out of place in her slender fingers. The glass was cloudy, and it appeared empty. Some shreds of paper remained on the front where there was once a label. What's that? Aoko stared at the bottle suspiciously. It's a storage bottle. I had one to spare, so I'm giving it to you. A what? I forgot what it's called, but it's a thing out of a Chinese novel. Aoko was miraculously able to parse what Alice meant. Are you saying that this is the red drinking gourd from the story about the two brothers who guarded the Lotus Cave? I actually think I know that story. Don't take this the wrong way, but it looks like your everyday medicine bottle with the label ripped off. Alice looked at the bottle and acknowledged how ordinary it looked. The red drinking gourd from the story about the two brothers who guarded the Lotus Cave. I think that's Kinkaku and Ginkaku, the gold and silver brothers. I think the red drinking gourd was one of the treasures they had, the 5 or 7 treasures, I forget exactly. And it's used for sealing demons, more or less. It's referenced in Naruto in the war arc. That's specific. Part of the war arc that you have Kinkaku and Ginkaku who have some of these treasures. One of them being the red drinking gourd that can seal people away. And that is what Mythos Mondays is all about. Reading stories, making connections. Kinkaku and Ginkaku, the brothers who guarded the Lotus Cave. I'll have to double check on that information. I don't want to make assumptions, but I'm fairly confident that that's the same story. Thank you for indulging me. Let's get back to it, shall we? Alice looked at the bottle and acknowledged how ordinary it looked. She also understood that she would not be the one using it as she set it on the table. Except this is a jade flask, not a red drinking gourd. That's not the problem. The problem is maintaining my dignity as a mage. Don't get stuck on the details. Just be happy it's not a bottle of laxatives. Fine. She made a good point. Just open the lid and ask for the person's name. But be careful, because if the target is resistant, the bottle will shatter. Aoko raised her eyebrows. Hang on. If he's resistant, I can only use it when he's asleep, right? I've never tried it, to be honest. But is there anyone who responds to things in their sleep? You'd be surprised. But true, people like that are rare. In that case, one would have to weaken them until they were about to pass out. Oh, I almost forgot. Drugs or magecraft will also cause the bottle to break. Then what good is it? What won't break the damn thing? A tool is only as good as the person using it. Alice turned away as she replied, as if the topic no longer mattered to her. I know you're fond of using dainty tools like this. Is it a hobby of yours or something? Aoko asked, hoping Alice would deny it. Perhaps. So, are you going to take it or leave it? Without answering, Aoko dithered a bit before taking the bottle and putting it in her pocket. She figured she might be able to find some use for it. Two hours had passed, and the clock struck 9. Their conversation had moved from the drawing room to the sunroom, and had manifested into the kind of scene one would not expect in such a mansion. To be honest, I didn't really want to leave it to Tobimaru like this. A hot earthenware pot sat on the table. Aoko spat out complaints to no one in particular as she plucked food from it with her chopsticks. Tonight, they were eating a traditional Japanese meal that looked out of place in this mansion. When it came to the kind of Japanese hot pot, Where all one had to do was buy and boil ingredients, it was usually Aoko's responsibility. Alice sat across from Aoko as she silently poked at the pot with a fork. Yamashiro made it a point to say that Shizuku hadn't joined a club. It's not like I have the time or energy to keep track of every single student. The egg she had plucked was still as silky as a baby's bottom, so she returned it to the pot. She settled for the shirataki noodles instead. I already know that the idiot is constantly busy with his jobs. That's why I tried my best to set him up with a club activity captain that'd be accommodating. But the nerve of the guy. Not even a thanks. Are you even listening, Alice? As if her mouth was full, she simply nodded in response. Her expression stated that she had no interest nor opinion on the matter, but at least she appeared to be listening. Satisfied, Aoko nibbled on some hanpen fish cake. I just can't trust anyone who says he's a great guy. Surprise, even Tobimaru was gushing about him. The only thing he's great at is being an airhead. I mean, there's really something wrong with his brain if he didn't get angry after what I said. Her thoughts went to what had happened in the student council room earlier that day. She remembered how non-responsive Sojiro had been to her words. His unconcerned face alone was enough for her to swallow the rest of her hanpen without chewing it. I thought you would understand, he says. Ha! His words were a lot like those that ended her childhood. You know it, don't you, Aoko? Through it all, you never lose sight of who you are. You're so strong. Perhaps it was meant as a compliment, but she took it as a patronizing way to pity her. Because the person who said it had acted like she was looking at a wounded animal. Whatever. Who cares what that weirdo thinks or says? That episode might have made her the most confused she had ever been in her life. Yet what shocked young Aoko the most was the look of pity on the face of the person she admired the most. You fought. Huh? The abrupt comment stopped her in her tracks. Sorry, what did you say? Something about a fight? Alice nodded. I can't say I completely understand from what you said, but it does come across as if you were trying to pick a fight with him. Alice bit into the very last hanpen. Her remark was unexpected, but completely on point. Why did you go there? I'd rather die than spend another second with him. I mean, seriously, gross. I have no interest in him whatsoever. I'd love it if I never had to say anything about him ever again. Very convincing, Aoko. So why all the talk about him? I should just let Alice say that. What? I was just reporting on today's investigation. Something wrong with that? What other reason could Alice be suggesting Aoko had for bringing it up? It would be several hours later in bed that Aoko realized that she had dug her own grave. No, not really. But does he really bother you that much? Alice ate her hot pot in silence as if she was honoring some sort of sacred ritual. Her face was as indifferent as always, but she was secretly enjoying how flustered Aoko was. Aoko remained oblivious to this. Normally, she would have noticed immediately, but she was not quite herself at this moment. Does he really? Well, of course he does. I think I've said that often enough. Okay. What specifically about him do you dislike? Huh? I don't need a specific reason to... She trailed off as she finally realized how disagreeable she was being. She could come up with no reason why. Her instincts had told her that she was incompatible with that hick. But why such a strong reaction? More than anything in the world, Aoko hated emotions without reason and decisions made with no rationale. I just don't like him. I'm sure there's a good reason for it, I think. She became more flustered the more she talked. Unfortunately for her, she could not come up with a coherent reason to hate Sojiro Shizuki. It was not his fault that he had zero common sense. It was the fault of the environment he grew up in. In fact, it was admirable that he was trying so hard to adapt to civilized society. As clueless as he might seem, he was not a complete waste of space. If he seemed a bit slow, it was only because his gentle nature compelled him to think before acting. When one looked at everything objectively, the conclusion was obvious. As much as she was loath to admit it, he really was unassuming. He really was an unassuming do-gooder everyone had pegged him as. I can't believe what I'm thinking. Is there really nothing wrong with him? There was plenty, so she left it at that for now. The chopsticks she had been using came to a stop. She was getting very annoyed. An irrational hatred burned through her head. Unable to come to terms with her feelings, she desperately tried to analyze Sojiro, but her mind only went in more circles. Alice fixed Aoko with a deadpan stare. I'm shocked. A small sigh. This isn't like you, Aoko. Those words were the final blow. Aoko felt the floor fall out from under her. She was unable to leave her chair until long after Alice had finished eating and left. However, even after getting knocked down, Aoko Aozaki was not one to be kept that way. She made short work of clearing up after dinner, and, after conceding the first bath of the night to Alice, she left the drawing room. Since it was customary in these sort of mansions to turn the lights off when leaving an empty room, the only lit areas of the house were the drawing room and the two girls' bedrooms. The upstairs was enveloped in darkness. Aoko briskly made her way to the deepest part of the east wing, along the long corridor, illuminated only by the light of the moon, and arrived at her room. All being said, sneak attacks make me sick to my stomach. She had been considering this on the way down the corridor, or perhaps ever since she left the drawing room. The moment she entered her room, she drew her proverbial line in the sand. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it face to face. I'll give it to him straight. This was not a concession driven by feelings of sympathy or compassion. For her, this was simply the way things ought to be. Okay, with that out of the way, after settling her resolve, she headed to the study next door. Let's see. Thursday shelf, winter solstice, green spine. Without hesitation, she removed one book from the countless volumes on the shelf. The introductory textbooks transported here from the Aozaki residence were separated into 6 shelves labeled Monday to Saturday. Aoko had organized the books by topic, genre, and purpose, and had more or less memorized exactly what was in her personal library. Referencing any of this material took her no time at all. It was to be expected from keeper of this study, though this keeper's fiefdom was nothing more than a small room. Both Aoko and Alice had given up all hope on the cluttered mess of a library in the annex. Nevertheless, on occasion, Aoko would have no option other than to give Alice a heads up and visit it when the study did not meet her needs. I really hope I don't have to go over there now. Aoko placed the thick green book down and took a seat. The desk she sat at was sturdy but uninviting. It wasn't the sort of furniture girls her age grew attached to, but she liked its minimalist elegance nonetheless. She flipped lightly through the book's old, worn pages. I still can't manage anything like Alice's bounded field. I guess I'll just have to find a place off the beaten track. The mountains, the woods, the school building empty at night. She was looking for a place that would be, except for the worst of luck, void of people, allowing her to forego the use of magecraft. Walls of thorns and magical mists are so indirect. If I want to cut off any route of escape, I need someplace flashy and obvious, both in purpose and in looks. Muttering about how there had to be some basic spell that fit her needs, she continued to flip through the pages. It goes without saying that she was looking for a way to deal with the witness from the previous night. Magecraft's uses were many, but not all-encompassing. Fundamentally, magecraft was good for making things or phenomena that existed already, while more or less bypassing the time and resources conventional means would require. It was, however, unable to manifest phenomena that were impossible to this world. It was essentially an equivalent exchange that used a variety of shortcuts. A phenomenon made possible by human hands, actualized by an individual's power. That was generally what magecraft was. To give a simple example, if Aoko were so inclined, she could make an entire lake appear at the mansion. However, it had to be something that existed within this world. Nothing, not even the smallest matter, could escape this unbreakable law. Even if Aoko were to release a level of heat on par with an F-15 fighter jet's afterburner, that event would only be possible if the circuit named Aoko Aozaki acted as a temporary input variable in a magical formula. The derived equivalence was simply a value that already occurred in reality. If the variable in question did not exist elsewhere in reality, the spell would not be valid. The imaginary element known as magical energy was like a lie that could only slip its fantasy through the network of order at the moment of ignition. Giving form to the non-existent illusions invading reality... Giving form to the non-existent illusions invading reality was something the universe did not allow. Still, what was it? You can combine the imaginary factor, ether, with pretty much anything else since it's not real itself. Anything composed entirely of magical energy is little more than an illusion and will quickly dissipate. Even a typical field, like a wall of thorns, generally starts with the user planting the thorns first, before using magical energy to grow and strengthen them in an instant. In the end, magical energy is just an easy-to-use fuel source, while acting as a firework that ignites phenomenon. Thanks for the follow, Hakaishin. Good to see you. Or so they say. Imaginary factors are all well and good, but all I can do is connect a basic circuit and process energy into a projectile. Laughing to herself, she looked for a bounded field or something similar, more suited to her current ability. The identity of the witness was still unknown, but if they were a classmate of Aoko's, she had any number of pretexts by which to lure them out. The problem was after that. Then it becomes a question of precision. If I don't take care of him in one blow, he might slip away. To be honest, she wasn't confident she could handle this smoothly without Alice's support. But Aoko saw no reason to ask for help, given that the target in question was a regular bystander. Fledgling as she was, she still had her pride as a mage. She continued to turn through the pages rhythmically. In the midst of the fluttering sound of thumbing through the volume, Aoko suddenly stopped her finger at a certain page. Found it. She smiled to herself. It was a simple formula that she had tucked away somewhere in the recesses of her memory. A spell of simple destruction. A cage. That's all I need to make. It's the oldest trick in the book that any hunter worth their salt would use. She placed a bookmark in the book, closed it, and got up to return to her room. Suddenly, she felt someone watching her. Through the window, she saw her in the night, a girl, staring back with a cold-hearted expression. The girl's face was hers, the expression undoubtedly her own. She began planning how to erase the witness. Though to say it was something as elaborate as a plan was overkill. This was just a job. She was going to make a cage and then lure her prey into it. There was no getting around it. Premeditated violence. I wonder if Alice is done with her bath. She mumbled out loud, as if the bath would return some warmth to her chilled heart. About 20 minutes had passed since she gave Alice the privilege of using the hot water first. Alice tended to bathe quickly, finishing well under 10 minutes. Her roommate was the type that could not understand the spirit of the bath, treating it as nothing more than a necessity for looking after one's body. For Alice, the concept of staying at a hot spring inn sounded more like a chore than anything. Though, in this regard, Aoko had to agree. I guess it's my time to... Huh? Is that the drawing room light on? It was unusual for Alice to sit in the drawing room after her bath. On nights when she had nothing to discuss, it was her style to return directly to her bedroom. Alice, are you in here? Alice nodded. With no book in hand, it appeared that Alice had been waiting for Aoko. So that's how it is. She really has no faith in me, does she? Aoko scratched her head in exasperation. Was it that Alice was worried about her, or had no faith in her? Her expression was so calm, Aoko could hardly figure out what she was thinking. I have a plan. You want to hear it? I can tell what it is by the look on your face. It's good that you're no longer wavering, but you must do something about that tell of yours, Aoko. Alice let out a small sigh. It was unusual for Alice to make such a display of her disappointment. I don't like sneaky attacks, so I'm going to do it fairly, and only after I've told him why straight to his face. That way, there will be absolutely no trouble later. Any complaints? Why would I have any? This is really only a matter of personal preference, after all. However, You're worried that I'll mess up, right? My accuracy hasn't exactly been stellar lately, so I was thinking about how to cover my bases with a location. I can't throw up a field like you, so I was thinking of doing it somewhere where he physically can't escape. Any ideas? Alice nodded in thought. The finger that gently rested on her lips indicated the question was to her liking. What about mirrors? You could easily seal him in the House of Mirrors for all eternity. Seriously? That's your idea? She frowned at Alice's bad taste. It was the kind of idea her roommate found to be inspired, but Aoko knew it was out of the question. Aoko was looking for a natural bounded field she could prepare, not a realm bordering on true magic that she couldn't create to begin with. Then you'll choose otherwise, I suppose. But please, whatever you do, do not bring him here. You don't need to tell me that. But actually, yeah. A House of Mirrors might actually work. Aoko smirked and shifted her balance away from the wall as she was resting on. Thanks, Alice. I just figured out the whole plan. I guess it's always best to talk to someone when you're in a bind. I find that rather true myself. Now in a good mood, Aoko retreated from the drawing room. Alice tried and failed to visualize what kind of blueprint Aoko had drawn up in her mind, but whatever it was, it appeared to be the thorough kind Aoko was good at. Aoko headed for the bathroom, humming to herself as she went. A year and a half of sharing a living space had taught Alice something. When Aoko Aozaki was in this good of a mood, only deep trouble could follow. You want to know if I'm okay with letting Aoko handle this on her own? It was unclear how long the bird had been in the drawing room. Chirping at Alice, the robin-like bird pranced across the furniture as if it were its property. Yes, I suppose. She said that she wanted to do it alone, and I do want her to know that she has my every faith. Still, the girl in black raised her arm. The bird, chirping once again, alighted on her outstretched, affectionate finger. Suffice to say, trust and faith are two very different things. The bird puffed out its stout chest in agreement, and Aoko was none the wiser to her roommate's rather unsettling comments. The following day was a typically overcast one. The day's classes ended as they had started, uneventfully. Winter break was just around the corner, and with it, final exams. Although Misaki High prided itself on its discipline, it was still a private school which promoted a culture of independence among its students. Industrious students had a place to explore that side of themselves under the guardianship of the student council president. More easygoing students could spend their time after school as they wished, as long as they were mindful of personal responsibility. The fact that the poster boy of independence was the student council vice president indicated just how vast the spectrum was. Aozaki, you in here? Tobimaru Tsukiji threw open the door and to the satellite student council room. Threw open the door to the satellite student council room, the rumored location for their secret meetings. Despite all appearances, he was the student council vice president, who also happened to be the poor soul responsible for executing the student council's dirty work. One person was waiting for him in the cramped room. The student council president, Aoko Aozaki, sat imperiously in a folding chair, glaring at Tobimaru and his boisterous entrance. This room is freezing as usual. We really need to buy a heater. So as not to succumb to Aoko's oppressive silence, Tobimaru opened with some casual small talk. Thank you for coming. Let's get down to business. Do you know why I've asked you here? I have an idea. What's up with the formality, Aozaki? Pretty cold to talk shop right away all the time, you know. Tobimaru closed the door and sat down across from Aoko. He was holding a blue envelope. Yeah, and loose lips sink ships. Might remember that once you get out into the real world. Alright, I'll remember. Wait a sec, nice try. Tobimaru was halfway to agreeing with Aoko before he caught himself and began to shake his head. As much as Tobimaru enjoyed the lack of red tape in his new line of work, he was not ready to turn full spy on his first day on the job. So then, are you done with your investigation? Yeah, I finished the last interview just now. The details are in the envelope along with the file you gave me. He tossed the envelope onto the table. Good. Aoko picked it up and began to scan through the documents that were inside. She entered her own little world, not sparing the slightest bit of attention for Tobimaru. If ignoring other people were a skill, she would be the master at it. Ahem. What? I just wanted to ask one thing. Yeah, and? The room was filled with a chilling silence. Aoko continued reading without an ounce of emotion upon her face. Though Tobimaru kept up an air of indifference, his stare remained fixed intently on her. You get a kick out of doing this kind of thing, Aozaki? Of course not. What's so fun about gathering intel I hardly even get to use? Right. Just wanted to check. Well, well, well. What's up, EA? Glad you could join us. Whether or not he was convinced, Tobimaru stood up from his chair with a disappointed expression. You'll figure this out just by reading it all, but I wasn't able to dig up anything conclusive. By all indications, there weren't any students in the area the day before yesterday. It's not like I can say for sure, though. No longer concerned over his task, Tobimaru headed toward the door. As if to say it was out of his hands. Oh, and one more thing. There was one student that wasn't included in your dragnet. You forgot to include any out-of-term transfers. Aoko raised her head ever so slightly. He was right. The recent transfer student was not included within the scope of her investigation. So, I haven't looked at Sonoji. Though, considering it's him, it's safe to assume that he was working late. Or, wait, it would be if he hadn't have mentioned something about seeing a murder or whatever. I told him that it was probably just a bad dream. Tobimaru cheerfully left the student council room. What? Simultaneously, Aoko felt her fingers go numb. And the documents she was holding spilled all over the table. It can't be. That's not possible. She broke out into a cold sweat and tried to tell herself that there must be some kind of mistake. However, the uncomfortable feeling in her gut would simply not go away. Perhaps because her intuition was almost always right at times like these. You've got to be kidding me. And yet she knew what she had to do. She would not have hesitated to kill Tobimaru if he had been the witness. But what if it was who she was thinking of? Just considering the possibility caused her blood to run cold. Aoko put her forehead in her hands and began to brood. And then suddenly, let us talk choice. You will always be faced with choices. A virtuous fool and a wicked sage. You cannot save both. You must pick one. That is the freedom granted to you. Very good, Pedri. 2 years earlier, Aoko muttered the words offered by her grandfather the day she replaced her elder sister as his successor, and let out a sigh of lament. This has to be a joke. She laughed at her own intuition. But it was no joke. If only those words had never been said. Aoko locked up the student council room and left for the day. Calmly, as though nothing untoward had happened, she greeted the students as they passed her in the halls. She was almost shocked by how natural she seemed. There was still plenty of students at the school. The grounds were noisy with the chattering of students who had finished the day but had yet to head home. Others still had club activities. The gray sky looked ready to pour, but nobody seemed to pay it any mind. Amidst the clamor, Aoko hastened to the school gate. She passed by some students in animated conversation. They seemed to be talking about their after-school plans. Apparently, they were adamant about maximizing their free time. She could not figure out how they could possibly be so irresponsibly focused on fun, but at the same time was in no mood to make fun of or feel envious of them. 2 short years prior, she had been just like them. I wonder if I'm becoming desensitized to it all. She retied her scarf, this time more tightly, to give off an air of solitude, but she was fooling no one. After all, what people who feign solitude are really masking is rejection. Solitude, rejection. They are 2 sides of the same coin. The area by the school gate was busier than usual. A group of boys appeared to be huddled behind it. Their transparent attempt to be discreet in terms of both location and loudness of voices did nothing to hide the fact that they were noisily arguing about a girl standing alone on the other side of the street. It's Alice. The girl was cloaked in a black cape. At first glance, it could have been mistaken for normal attire, but those from Misaki could tell that she wore the uniform of a prestigious girls' school. Said school had no connection to Misaki High in any way, shape, or form. The 2 schools were miles apart, both physically and spiritually. A member of that school's student body was a rare sighting, as the majority were forced to live in the school dorm. Rayan Girls' Academy had a reputation as a school for princesses, and it was rare indeed for one to be slumming it with the common folk. That alone would have been enough to cause the ruckus among the boys, but this girl looked the epitome of class. One could not help but describe the standing figure as charming. The way she silently, motionlessly waited was reminiscent of a meticulously composed portrait. Aoko took one look at her before instantly recalling that one word, solitude. Okay, you lame brains. Don't you have anywhere better to be? Disgusted, Aoko barged through the gate. At this point, she would normally head home, but today she crossed the street toward the waiting girl. Oh, crap! Is that the student council president? Damn it, she's trying to chase her away. Let the girl be, she has a right to stand there if she wants to. She's gonna go nuclear. The president versus the angel. What gives, man? Who cares if she's from another school? She's not even on school property. Right? Right, guys? Don't mess with Madame Aoko. You're just asking to be smacked. The boys ran their mouths behind her back. Not in the mood to shut them up, Aoko walked right up to the girl and offered an informal wave. Something the matter, Alice? I told you before, there's nothing of interest for you here. For real? For real? Flashbacks to Persona 5. Aoko heard the boys by the gate lose their collective minds, and did her best to ignore them. I wanted to be sure, but... Aoko, those people are a nuisance. You think? I'll chase them off. In contrast to Alice's small voice, Aoko spoke loud and clear. Naturally, this was on purpose, so as to deal with the riffraff by the gate all at once. Crap, she's coming this way. Hey, stop pushing me. Move it, I'm out. But doesn't it look like they're tight? Maybe we could get the Prez to introduce us. Rookie mistake. You still haven't experienced the realities of the battlefield. On second thought, don't let dreams be dreams. It's your funeral. Perhaps because too many of them had gathered in one place, the mob entered a frenzied panic as they tried to escape. Aoko addressed them all. Well, 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 what do we have here? If it isn't the Go Home Early Club. Would you mind telling me what you're all doing gathered in a place like this with no club activities to attend? The student council president stared daggers at the boys. In any case, exams are coming up. It sure would be horrible if instead of going home to study, you were loitering around just to ogle another school's student, now wouldn't it? It's not like a single one of you has the guts to even go up to her and say something. Not even one of them was brave enough to admit that this hit the nail on the head. If any of them had such courage, they would have already been chatting the young lady up. I think I forgot something in the classroom. If I had known it was going to end like this, I would have at least gone down trying. What if we go borrow binoculars from the astronomy club? I'm sure we could get a good view from the roof. The astronomy club doesn't have binoculars, dummy. If anyone does, it would be the Wild Bird Society. The Prez destroyed those last month. If you have enough time for bird watching, you have enough time to find a girlfriend, chicken. Find a girlfriend. Sorry, Zaki, I'm gonna cut through the back exit. I gotta jet too. Later, Prez. See you tomorrow. And with those oh-so-charming remarks, the boys scattered with their tails between their legs. You seem to be enjoying yourself, Aoko. How could you tell? Aoko's response slipped out all too easily. In truth, there were not that many bad apples at Misaki High, and dealing with them really wasn't that bad. So, what brings you down here? Did you find something out? I identified traces of the witness from within the field. All we need to do now is put a name to them. I see. Alice, how long have you been waiting here? Since school was dismissed. So she had been here for roughly an hour. Standing in the same place for an hour would be taxing for someone as sensitive to the cold as Alice. I'm sorry, if you would have told me. Don't be. I'm just doing it because I wanted to. As she spoke, her black eyes were fixed upon the gate, and the students passing through it. She had likely been observing the gate in this manner for the past hour. You weren't waiting for me, were you? Well, I'm here now anyway, so we can go. Alice nodded in assent. If Alice was still here, it meant she had not found the witness yet. If she had found this student, Alice would have already gone home ahead of Aoko and begun to research the student's background. Nothing came up on my end. She reported the result of Tobimaru's investigation. Alice remained silent. With that, the conversation ended, leaving the two to silently endure the freezing wind. The silent stakeout dragged on endlessly. Students continued to pass the gate, each shocked at the sight of the unusual combo, and headed home. After 20 minutes, Aoko let a sigh escape her mouth, perhaps from boredom, perhaps from the cold, or perhaps from both. Hey, on our way home, do you want to drop by at dawn? Aoko quickly turned to excuse me. Aoko quickly turned to Alice to catch her reaction. Dawn was the name of one of Aoko's favorite coffee shops. Offering no clear indication as to whether she was critical of Aoko's blasé attitude or agreeing to her whims, Alice's gaze shifted ever so slightly. Aoko followed her stare. Hey, Awazaki, are you meeting someone here too? The sudden voice took her off guard. There was only one person who spoke with this gentle, good-natured tone. Of course it'd be him. Turning her back to Alice, Aoko moved her focus to the newly appeared student. Can I help you with something? All politeness flew out the window. Already in a bad mood, Aoko's mood plummeted the longer she looked at Sojiro. The subtlety of her expression, however, was lost on him. No thanks. I was just on my way to the station to meet the swimming club captain, and I wanted to say thanks. Well, that was completely unexpected. Thanks. Joining a club. Aoko had a hunch that he was about to say something brainless. And by thanks, you mean payback, right? Fortunately, Sojiro was completely unaware of the more sinister implications to the word payback. I'm not sure what you mean by that, but it's no big deal. It's just that the swimming club captain said that the club doesn't get that busy until summer. Sojiro was just about to thank her for recommending a club that would not take up much of his time when Aoko cut him off with an expression of disinterest. Well, of course. I couldn't very well introduce you to a club that I knew you would never turn up to. All I did was mention some that even someone as busy as you could join. I see. Very efficient. His open admiration for her sapped Aoko's will to fight. Finding a suitable club and negotiating with its captain hadn't been an efficient use of her time at all. Anyway, you really helped me out. I just wanted to say thanks. Sojiro gratefully dipped his head, but not before the flustered Aoko stopped him. Give me a break. You're just gonna give me a headache if you do that. So, how's the swimming club? Does it seem like a good fit? An awkwardness infiltrated her previously sharp gaze. Sojiro was able to pick up on the odd change in her behavior, but could not divine its reason. So he simply started with what he knew so far, and reported the most recent information he had. Oh, I got kicked out of the club already. What? Why? Aoko instinctively shouted at the unexpected response. Like a human jack-in-the-box. This unexpected development threw her mind in a tizzy, and she momentarily forgot the complicated feelings she had been wrestling with. But you just said that you were on your way to meet the captain. Yeah, the captain's taking me to a heated pool in Yashirogi. Sojiro stated this very matter-of-factly to the still reeling Aoko. I'm not following. Things seem to be going fine. Why would they kick you out? Oh, that's easy. Because I can't swim. He can't swim. He joined the swim club, but he doesn't know how to swim. Aoko reached up with her fingers and pinched the bridge of her nose as she processed his answer. Shizuki, do you remember my question from yesterday? The one where I asked whether you preferred running or swimming? I'm confident that I remember your answer, but please repeat it to me. You said you preferred swimming, right? Seems like he won't be in Free Season 7. Yeah, probably not. Yeah, since I was little I've always wanted to learn, and I'm already good at running, so... Oh, you sweet summer child. Her energy spent, Aoko finally understood. Apparently they would have taken me in and trained me from square one if I were in my first year. Sadly, it sounds like they can't recruit a second year like me who sinks like a rock, especially with only 3 months left in the school year. But the captain was really nice about it and even offered to teach me how to swim. Sojiro's words were spoken from a place of joy, a fact that failed to reach Aoko. So in other words, I tried to palm off defective goods. I'll never be able to show my face to the swimming club captain again. Wait, but isn't the captain a... Shizuki, the swimming club captain is... She stopped herself short of a girl. She's afraid of how that might look, that she might not be able to rein herself in if she started. You know what? It doesn't matter. I understand now, so you can just go. Far, far from here, okay? I just can't deal with you right now. Tobimaru said the same thing, come to think of it. He said that you were unusually tired yesterday and today. Did something happen? Kind of, but it's fine. It seems to have resolved itself. Anyway, how do I look to you, Shizuki? Do I really look that exhausted? Why had she asked him this? Blurting out things for no reason and on impulse. This was not usual for Aoko. Perhaps it was because she realized that this would be their last chance to have a normal conversation. After a few moments of contemplation, Sojiro conjured up a grin that cut straight through the tension. Well, I would say you look more lively than you do tired. Like a wolf that's been forced to plow fields for a long time, but is excited to finally go on a hunt again. He seemed so cheerful. Like he was so happy for her. Without thinking, Aoko's hands went to her cheeks. If what he said were true, then she was grinning from ear to ear. There was just no way she would have made such a mistake. Anyway, thanks again. See you tomorrow. Perhaps still not comfortable enough to wave to her, he said his goodbye with sincerity in his voice and smile, and took his leave. Wait, I have a question for you, then you can go. Aoko called out after him. Her voice was cold as she admonished herself for having been somewhat affable earlier. Yeah? This is just a hypothetical question. Let's say you're on the brink of starvation, and right in front of you are 2 animals also starving. Someone gives you a gun and tells you to shoot one of them. The one on the right is a lion. The one on the left is a kitten. What do you do? It was a fable-like moral dilemma, especially the way in which it was cruel and rather preachy. The kind that if you thought too hard about it, you would never find an answer. Sojiro answered quickly and calmly. I don't think I'd shoot at all. You asked me what I'd do, right? And come on, all 3 of us are starving. He was not in the least fazed by the dilemma. He gave the most innocent response. So innocent, in fact, that it would give anyone pause. You're going to live a long life, Shizuki. Oh, you think so? I think that's the first time anyone's ever said that to me. Adorning his face with a smile wholly out of sync with his comment. What the heck is that supposed to mean? She regretted stopping him. If only she had just watched him go, this conversation would never have happened. Sojiro Shizuki made his way down the sloped street. Today, just like every day, he probably had to work late again. Only Aoko and Alice remained, with Alice doing what she could to simply blend in. That harmless hick really throws me for a loop. Aoko clenched her right fist as tightly as she cursed out loud. Anything to prevent herself from screaming at the top of her lungs. Whether that scream would be directed towards Sojiro or toward herself was another matter entirely. Aoko. Aoko heard Alice's soft voice behind her. Aoko knew what she was going to say, as she had known the entire time. Ever since Alice, having shown no reaction to any of the other students, changed her expression upon seeing Sojiro. You don't need to say it. It's him, right? The witness. Her voice was cold as ice. It was the voice of someone talking about a complete stranger. The lion and the kitten. There were pros and cons to choosing either of these animals, the point being that she had asked him to choose one of them. In terms of risk, the lion was the more dangerous choice. The instant the gun was pointed at it, there was a chance it would fight back. Those who chose the lion required more courage, but any sense of guilt that came along with holding a gun would be forgotten. Lions were fierce creatures, a poor excuse to shoot an animal perhaps, but one that certainly helped alleviate the guilt. But what about the kitten, the weaker creature? It goes without saying that the kitten would be the easier target of the two, but choosing it would be a disquieting decision for anyone. Even if the kitten had no chance to survive, it was still too senseless to carry out. And to Aoko, Sojiro was that choice. I knew it. It was him, too. When she had felt that sinking feeling... Pardon me. Just needed a moment. When she had felt that sinking feeling in the student council room, she ignored it. There was no getting around what must be done, she told herself. Until, that is, Sojiro went and said what he did, causing her resolve to waver. But the discomfort in her chest did not stem from any guilt she may have felt. She could care less for Sojiro. He was weak and would be incredibly easy to deal with. Yet for some reason, she could not dispel her reservations. A transfer student who moved from the city to the middle of nowhere with no family to speak of. Few would notice if he were to suddenly disappear compared to a person of some renown. If she were to kill him, it would be as simple as wringing a cat's neck. And it all served to just piss her off. It was too lucky. Like everything was neatly handed to her. She wanted to just drop kick it right into orbit. I can't believe it. I hate it. This isn't how it's supposed to be. Why am I like this? Standing behind her, Alice heard all of the muttering. Nevertheless, she seemed to ignore it and said, he had something wrapped around his neck. It would actually be easier than that because a cat has claws. Damn, homie. Sojiro is purely pure. He's pure. He is a sweet little boy, just like me. Small ball boy. A wholly unrelated topic. Aoko returned to her senses. His neck? Yes. I wonder if it had something to do with being rejected by the swimming club. Okay, but the cat illusion with him, maybe I was right about him being a cat. Yeah. That, and then Alice is bringing up the bandage around his neck now, which we mentioned last time. The fact that nobody brought up. We're getting somewhere. We're getting somewhere. Alice had put much thought into this, as if it had a deeper meaning to her somehow. Now that you mention it, I saw him wearing the same thing the first time we met. I must have missed it because he always has his collar done up. The conversation turned to idle nonsense. And though it solved none of her current problems, it did help calm Aoko's frazzled nerves. Also, cats hate water and he can't swim. That's something. Thanks, Alice. I'm good. I'm ready to go. Let's strike while the iron's hot and end this before he spreads any rumors. Pumped once more, Aoko turned her back to the school gate. For now, they would retire to the mansion and prepare for battle. Sure, but when and where do you plan to kill him? She said quietly, so as not to be overheard by anyone else. Normally, Aoko had to rein in that side of Alice, out in the open as they were. But this was far from a normal situation. Tonight. As for the place, we shall meet him in the land of dreams. She gave a fearless laugh. A strangely pleasant sound, like the kind one would make when meeting their lover. And with that, I think it's a good time to bring this stream to a close. We made some decent progress today. We've learned a couple of things. There was that nice reference to Kinkaku and Ginkaku. Okay, why is she trying to kill him? Because he was witness to the he witnessed her magecraft, which I was about to say, this is playing out exactly like Fate's Day Night. She, in this situation, she's Rin. Aoko is Rin, and Sojiro is Shiro. He witnessed a magical event and has since begun to spread rumors, and now she is responsible for killing him. Oh my! I'm still cutting off on this side. I'm gonna have to tweak the crop on the VTube Studio stuff. I'll have that fixed up better for tomorrow. But yeah, we're gonna call it there. My voice is a little scratchy from my run in the cold air this morning, and starting to get a little late in the evening. I don't want to push my luck out here. Thank you for joining me. I hope you guys are enjoying the new model. It's very bouncy. I like it. I like it a lot. I'm excited to play more games with it. Speaking of which, we will be beginning a new game tomorrow. I'm not sure exactly what time I want to start. Maybe around 3, maybe around 6. I'll keep you guys posted. Check my Twitter for more information. We're going to be playing Okami. It's a game that I should have played a long time ago, but I kept putting it off, and I'm not putting it off anymore. I want to play it, and I'm going to do it. Bye, have a great day, and Happy New Year's. Happy New Year's, Akaishin. Thanks for the follow, and thanks for sticking around. I'll see you around, alright? Tomorrow we'll be back with Okami. Beyond that, not sure exactly what I'm going to be doing. I think my brothers want to do a little more Lethal Company. We might be able to do that Wednesday or Thursday. After that, it's just a countdown until Tekken 8 releases. Got some big plans for this year, and hoping to push through. I'm hoping to hit affiliate. That would be very nice. Hoping to get some networking done when I'm at WeebCon, hang out with some people. It's gonna be a good year. 2024 belongs to me. And you, Petri. All of us. We can... We're gonna do it. Anyway, let's see if there's anybody on who we could raid. I don't know who's doing what. It's kind of a weird time in the day right now. There's not really anybody I know who's doing stuff right now. Oh, there's Jin. Jin's playing Final Fantasy. Let's raid Jin. Let me get that pulled up real quick. I gotta. This is slightly complicated. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. Okay. Shinkitsu playing Final Fantasy VII Remake. Send you guys over there. I have not played Final Fantasy VII Remake. I haven't. I wanted to. I've played Kingdom Hearts, as some of you in chat know, distinctly, and so I'm kind of not falling for it again. Is my thing is that Kingdom Hearts released back at its first release, and then they made the HD versions on the PS3, and they had Kingdom Hearts 1.5 and Kingdom Hearts 2.5, and then on the PS4 they had Kingdom Hearts 1.5 and 2.5, and then on the PS5 they had the fucking full release. So like I'm waiting for every part of the remake to come out, and when Square Enix inevitably releases the whole collection all in one, then I'll buy it and play it. So yeah, you can't make me, but go have fun anyway. So thanks for joining me. I'll see y'all tomorrow.
You can turn brain off? Okay, that sounds perfect, actually. Okay, I do not own drag. Wait, wait. Oh! Kama! Thank you so much for the raid. For sure, the raid is going to be in Zoopy. We are. Right now. Hi, Kama. How was your stream? Hope you had a super good and bug your stream for the